Hi, everybody. It's Michael and Julie again from Solas Inspirational Chats. And today we are delighted to be in the company of two of Mná na hEireann, two wonderful women who are joining us to help celebrate the beginning of the Christmas celebrations and also to carry it through to Nullag na Mán just after Christmas. So we have Ciara, and Ciara is founder and editor of All In magazine, and she's also an activist. And Elaine Mullally is a wife, mother, entrepreneur, and a community activist. And both of these ladies we find are very inspirational. We read a lovely interview there recently on the All In magazine about Elaine Mullally, and have also watched videos with them as well.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Fáilte lovely ladies. And I have to say that, well, first of all, Nulliconn Eve Galair, because this will be aired just before Christmas. But we were at the hEanacháin Festival, which was fantastic. So well done to Stephen Kerr and Susanna Delaney for all that wonderful celebration of all things Irish. And Eddie Hobbs was one of the key speakers, and he spoke about the power of Mná na hEireann, that they are the backbone of our island. And then a few weeks later, I read a fantastic interview with these two fantastic guests, and I thought, no better women for our Nullig special, Mná na hEireann. So, ladies, Gramila Mahago for joining us. And thank you, Michael. Will I let you lead the discussion?
Yeah, so well, I suppose start with you, Ciara. You know, you're All In magazine, which is available online. We put all the details underneath this video so that people can get in touch with you and they can also connect and have a look at the magazine. And we contribute to the magazine and we find that it's absolutely fascinating. It's a great readership and a huge range of topics, which is wonderful. Would you like to tell us a little bit about why you got involved in that?
Yeah, so it's a funny story. I'm all about movies and TV shows, right? And so years and years and years ago, the very first time I watched Superman, I fell in love with Lois Lane. And I just thought this woman was incredible. She was out there working for the Daily Planet. She was a journalist. She was getting it all done. And I had this buzz inside me, and I've always been a writer since I was 9 years of age, was the first memory I have. And I thought, oh, I'd love to write for a magazine. And I had spoken to Elaine actually a bit about this when we did our interview. So if something isn't available to me because I want to do it, say, and somebody else offers it to me, I'll always create it myself. But I got this opportunity to write for a different magazine, and I did that for 2 years, and I thought it was fantastic. They offered me a column, and then they took back the offer because they decided to close the magazine. And I was gutted because I had created a whole graphic for myself with this Lois Lane theme. And I was just so ready for it. And I thought, feck it, I'm just going to create my own magazine. And the other side of it was I love giving people a platform to actually shine for who they are. I don't like censorship. I have no desire to stop people's words. I love when people come at things and they say exactly how they feel about them. And I thought, let's create All In magazine. I mean, I love the title, I love the name, All In. It does exactly what it says on the tin. And so, I think it was April of last year, 2024, I decided this is where we were going. And in June, we launched our first issue. So it's been going from strength to strength every single month. It's fantastic to have you a part of it. And Elaine was our beautiful cover model for the last issue.
Very good. And Elaine, I know we've said you're a wife, mother, entrepreneur, but also you have a political side to you as well. And is it through the political side that you feel that we will get things, as an activist, we will get things sorted in this country? Or do you feel that, away from politics, come back to community and to local groups, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be. Sorry, first of all, I just want to wish everyone a happy Christmas and thanks to Julie and Michael for inviting me on, and to the lovely Ciara for having me on in the magazine. It was actually a real little shocker to see myself on the front of it. It's like, oh my God. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, you know, I've two trains of thought on this, and one of them is that we can't do anything from the outside. That the only way we can make true change from a governmental perspective or policy perspective is to be on the inside, and that's why number one I set up a political party, but number two why I ran as an independent in last year's general election. So but I also value and see the importance of grassroots and that's why I work in my own community, and basically for the people of Ireland, I see there's a bigger picture than just my own town and my own county. So I think that we need to come back, that we've lost a serious amount of community involvement. There's, when you see back, say maybe 30, 40 years ago, and people give out about the church, and I understand why, but Mass was such a community. Everybody gathered once a week. We all met. We all talked about what was going on in the town. You shook hands with people that you hadn't seen probably for a couple of weeks, if not months. And there was a sense of community. And then you obviously have your pub scenes and your shops and the main town centres, which are now slowly eroding over time. And people have become much more isolated, and they stay at home quite a lot. That you can order your shopping online, you can do so much online, that we're losing community. We're losing that sense of who we are, of what we stand for, of helping each other, of seeing somebody that needs something, that's a need, and then we come together and we help this person. We're losing that, and I think it's probably something I fear a little bit, because that's what keeps us all together. That's what makes us Irish. That's what makes us, the most Céad Míle Fáilte country probably on the planet. So I would love to see that come back a bit more, and it has made me get a lot more involved locally on the ground. I was out last week putting up Christmas lights with a local group, because I want to go out and meet them. What else am I going to do on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night? It felt Christmassy to be rolling out wires of lights on a main street and then helping somebody. It was just, we need that. So I think, Michael, it works, but we have to do it both. We need both. We need people that are very active on the ground. We need to try and keep building on that community spirit, but we also need people who are going to step forward into politics, who are good people, who value that sense of community and everything we hold dear, who value that, to bring that into the Dáil with them, into the biggest house in Ireland, or the most important house in Ireland. Um, so it's both,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm doing both. It's because we need them, and if you're not a community person, then you shouldn't be representative up in Dáil Éireann. That's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And we met Ciara's homefulness group there a year and a half ago, where again, community was trying to come together to look after the homeless people. We go to a farmers market here every Saturday in Gorey, which is just down the road, and we've also had contact with the likes of the Lighthouse and some other community groups around the country. And we feel there is a movement towards community, or a rebuilding of community, but it's on a it's moving very slowly. And I think people are preoccupied by what they're trying to do. They're trying to go to work, they're trying to pay the bills, look after the kids, and all the rest of it. So I think, yeah, I personally, I agree with you. Somebody has to be on the inside trying to make changes, but it's to actually get in there and be able to make the changes.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. And mahu, Elaine, because it is fantastic what you're doing. As Michael said, yes, we're completely behind you with the whole community-based approach. And then also someone has to step forward. And I suppose that's where I certainly started paying attention to you with the Spoil the Vote campaign, because suddenly there were a few people, and they were well known in our nation, and they were saying there's something wrong here with this democracy, because it wasn't a democracy, and the change is needed. And you were actually highlighting the issue, and that was fantastic the way you described it in your interview with Ciara. Ciara, you did a great job. I promise not to nod a lot now on this podcast, but I was nodding away in the car because it was fantastic how you explained it. So just for anyone who hasn't had that opportunity, as Michael said, we'll put all the details of Elaine's website and also the magazine in the blurb below. But would you just explain about the Spoil the Vote? Because sometimes we do have Americans and Canadians who join us for the podcast.
Yeah, fair enough. So the reason why the main reason why I was involved in the Spoil the Vote campaign was because I had been helping Maria Steen to get on the ballot paper. She'd been working for months behind the scenes, and then obviously it became public. And as I said, I was helping her in the background. I saw the way that the government had publicly come out openly and said, particularly Fine Gael publicly said that none of our county councillors are allowed to vote or to nominate an independent candidate coming through the council route. Predominantly, there would have always been around 3 candidates that would get through. So the way the presidential election system works in Ireland, you either come through the Oireachtas route or the council route. There's two routes to come through. And the government would easily put through a candidate, if not two, through the Oireachtas because they hold that many seats. So the county councillors in Ireland, this is their little role they love. This is where they get to utilise their vote on a national level and identify a couple of candidates that they would love to see as president. And predominantly Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin would abstain. So the county independent councillors would come together and they'd nominate a candidate, and the party candidate, the party county councillors would abstain from the nomination process, so they wouldn't get involved in it. But we saw what happened this year. The two government, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and there was a block from Sinn Féin, all told their councillors, under no circumstances do you let an independent through, because they were terrified, I reckon, that what was going to happen was there was a strong chance that a centre-right stroke conservative candidate may have won. We don't know. So when that didn't happen, when it was so undemocratic and it was so blatantly undemocratic, I was glad, because at least it highlighted how undemocratic the process was. Everybody got to see it, including Fianna Fáil and Fine Gaelers, who have subsequently said to me that they felt that they were spoiling their vote because they felt that the government were trying to dictate to people who they couldn't vote for. And that's exactly what they did. There was three candidates. One was Fianna Fáil, one was Fine Gael, and one was hard left. So that was it. No choice other than that. And that lack of choice, I think, sparked an awful lot of people to say, all right, that's it. I am going to use my vote, but I'm going to use it wisely and I'm going to use it as a protest. And it was, to me, it was very, very, very effective.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it was interesting, you know, on Twitter and on the different social media sites to see how people took photographs. They're not supposed to take photographs in a polling station, and what they actually wrote on some of the papers. Like it was some of it was laugh out loud.
I was over in the count centre in Portlaoise
Yeah,
this morning, and some people wrote like a dictionary on this ballot paper. They used every single piece of space. That it was incredible to see the rounds people went in. There was stickers made and stuck on them. Somebody made a beautiful handbag and stuck it on for voting for Maria Steen. It was like the rounds people went to was amazing. The effort that went into this election. I would love to have seen the broad range, but you're standing looking at one particular box being emptied and going through it. But I have to say, some of them were hilarious.
they were. Yeah. But I think if you count Jim Gavin, and
213,000.
if you count
Yeah.
Jim Gavin's votes on top of that, you know, so you have to question it. And also, if you look at, you know, Conor McGregor, love him or hate him, bringing it to the world attention from the White House on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes,
You
actually,
know,
and Una McGurk brought that up also, and we weren't expecting that, and I'm sure we have a lot of people that said, oh, well, we're definitely never tuning into the pair of them again. But no, she had a brilliant point. I think when you're in the White House and you start talking about this little nation and all the issues with immigration and the lack of democracy, by God, the world media is suddenly looking at us. And I do think a lot of people observe what happens on our island, and especially hEireann, because the reason why these two lovely ladies are on, when we were with the hEanacháin conference, Eddie Hobbs spoke about hEireann, that they are the backbone and they're the ones with the vision. And we were all terrified of the Irish mammies. They are notorious. So I think Irish women are the ones that are bringing change. I know Michael and I are going to the Ireland Forum in January, and there's a lot of speakers of that too. And these are people who want to make a change. As Elaine said, they want to stand up, they want to make a difference. They see that the system isn't working. So I think it's back to the Gandhi quote again, be the change you want to see in the world. And I know we could talk all day, but I'm conscious that these lovely ladies probably have lots of things to organise as Christmas is almost upon us. So because it is the festive season, ladies, if you had a wish, a Christmas wish that you could make for yourselves and the nation, would you like to have a little think about it and then maybe share it with our viewers? So, Ciara, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I think I know what mine would be. So, we were just having a quick chat before this interview about the idea of activism and about being able to act on the behalf of people who potentially can't act on their own behalf. And I would agree with Elaine in terms of children being very, very important to look after. And I think my wish this year, particularly because of the Homefulness project that we've been working on, which is to end homelessness in Ireland, which is absolutely possible, but the government aren't going to do it. And it would be a wish that all of the children who are not being protected by the adults that are supposed to protect them, who are not being advocated for by the adults who are supposed to advocate for them, and who are not being minded by the people who are supposed to mind them, have a turn in the tide and get their opportunity to be looked after. Because it's horrible to see what's happening to kids in this country. And we can bury our heads in the sands all day long and we can pretend it's not happening, but it is. So I have a wish for the kids of this country to be looked after properly across the board, and for the Irish community and for hEireann to stand up and say, it doesn't matter that it's not my child that's being hurt, it's any child, and that we get to stand up and we look after them.
Thank you.
Beautiful, that's beautiful. Yes, we would
yeah.
echo that. Thank you so much, Gurmila Mahagat. And Elaine, would you like to have the parting words with your wish?
I agree fully with everything Ciara said. There's not much more to add in relation to children. But my wish for Christmas and my wish for life is that the government would just do their job. Because if they did their job, then the children, the elderly, the vulnerable, the workers, the people that need help, every single issue would be worked on. But the government are not doing their job, and that's why people like myself and Ciara and you guys are having to do all of these jobs, because we're calling them out. I suppose another wish would be that more people would step forward and help us and say, okay, guys, you're not on your own. We all have a responsibility here. If we want to protect the future of this country, if we want to protect our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, we have a responsibility now to do that. And I just wish more people would see that it's not that difficult to be called a few names. And the more names they call us, the more we can step into our own truth and become complete and whole as individuals and not care about the silly names. They don't matter. What matters is the future of Ireland and our children and grandchildren's future. I suppose that's as much as I could.
Wonderful Christmas wish. And, I think personally that we're getting there, but we're getting there, as I said earlier on, too slowly. We need, there needs to be some impetus. And it's from people like yourselves, ourselves, and other people that we deal with, where the impetus is going to come from. And I can see that, a little bit down the road, we should see some results. How it's going to happen exactly is anybody's guess. But I think groups coming together, the likes of hEireann, the likes of the Ireland Forum in January, where they're talking about putting forward solutions as opposed to just harping on the problems that we have, I think will be of great help. And it'd be nice to see more and more people getting involved in it.
Definitely. And I think these two lovely ladies have given lots of hope to our listeners also, which is what Christmas is all about. So ladies, Gurmila Mahagat for your time and for sharing your wonderful expertise and experience. Not agaibh, and to your families also, and to all those tuning in, thank you so much for your support over the past year, and wishing you, as Michael and I always say, laughter, love and light from our hearts to yours. Slán agus bannacht live galéir.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you. Gurmagat.